guys, welcome back to the Pineapple Party Podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Pineapple Party Podcast. My name is Jensen, I'm your host, and today we have a very special, very wonderful, very amazing, and very handsome guest, Emmer Myzan. Myzan, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi guys, so happy to be here. Thank you, Jensen, for getting me on this podcast today. My name is Emmer Myzan. You guys can call me Myzan, and I am currently a cadet pilot here in Malaysia. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Wonderful. So for you guys that don't know, me and Myzan, we've known each other for, I reckon about 2 years-ish now.
Yeah, around there, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and we met through the Monash Music Club. We both go to the same uni, and Myzan, you've recently graduated. Do you maybe just want to, in however short or long you like, pause? Would you like to talk about your journey in Monash, what you did there, what did you study, and your overall experience?
All right, yeah. So I think you can trace my journey through Monash all the way back to my foundation days when I did Muffy in Sunway. So that is Monash's foundation program. Did that for like around a year. COVID hit in 2020, and I joined Monash that same year in August or so. And yeah, I'm in School of Business, graduated with a bachelor's in Business and Commerce, majored in Business Analytics, minored in both marketing as well as Applied Economics. So pretty much, I mean, your standard business stuff.
Yeah.
On the side as well, besides studies, I was active in Monash Music Club, which is where I met Jensen. I met Jensen for the first time over our Discord, a weekly session that we
Yes.
had. That was those were some good times, man.
Yeah.
I was in the Monash Music Club for like around 3 sems, which is an equivalent of like around 9 months ish or so, give or take. I was in events department as well as the activities department. And I've worked very closely with Jensen for quite some time as well, music wise, and also just being around him. And yeah, that's been my journey so far through Monash.
Yeah, and I can tell everybody for a fact that through music club or through uni in general, you've always been uplifting people, and genuinely you're one of my favorite people from Monash, and thank you for giving us your time today. Of course, we'll be talking about flight school. We'll be talking about planes, lots of planes, and
Oh yeah.
and I guess we can start off with why flight school. Like you graduated with something that you said was very business centric, right? You talked about minoring in marketing, applied economics. So really, the traditional path would maybe be join a marketing firm or work in an office in a kind of, I wouldn't say generic because that would be, I wouldn't say that's the appropriate term, but something that is very traditionally work in an office. You work a business job, but what made you want to go into flight school right after you graduated with a business and commerce degree?
Yeah, I think that's a question I get a lot. I think when even for me when I joined my flight school, when they kind of discovered what I did previously, they were kind of surprised and they questioned why I even joined flight school in the first place. So yeah, I think the answer that I give everyone is that I just really loved aviation as a child. It's been something that I've always been curious with and always been something that I think I just always loved traveling. And I think with my family being quite heavily kind of like involved with like the defense ministry. So my dad was in ex-Navy, my uncle is currently serving Navy as well. So kind of like that feeling of patriotism is kind of strong. So I always wanted to serve the country or people while still being able to travel around the world. So as a child, I always loved that part, and of course that kind of points straight to being a pilot, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think overall, I just loved airplanes. I think I loved how they work. It's kind of magic if you think about it. It's just a piece of metal flying across the sky and it carries tons of people. people call us the glorified bus drivers. And that is that is kind of true.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just love flying. I love airplanes. I love traveling. And yeah, my journey is definitely unorthodox. I went through foundation, I went through Monash, got a degree in business, and now I'm in flight school. I think the original plan was for me to jump straight to flight school after Mafi, which is all the way back in 2020. But as
Right.
you may know, COVID hit, and it was quite an uncertain time for everyone, especially the aviation industry. And essentially, oh, I'm sorry, that's my gate. But yeah,
You're good.
but essentially, um, it was just a lot of uncertainty around aviation. So pretty much, um, I think my uncle is in Singapore Airlines as well. And I had a lot of thorough conversations with him throughout the time to discuss about what's really the right choice because, of course, investment into flight is definitely not cheap as well.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure that we made the right decision. So yeah, he told me that back then we didn't really know how long this was gonna last, and even if the aviation industry was even gonna recover eventually, because there was
Oh.
just so many uncertainties. So he told me to go do something else first, um, and then only pursue aviation, right?
Right.
So, I made the call to switch from pursuing something in sports science to aviation right before Mafi.
Right.
Um, Literally like the week before the first day, I was like, okay, I think I want to do aviation. So again, like I said, did Mafi. Plan was just to straight go to flying school,
Yeah.
but then that happened, and yeah, even like the doctors that I did my medicals with to kind of apply for flying school, even they told me like, yeah, I think you should do something else first.
Right.
And yeah, then lo and behold, um, I think I really enjoyed myself through my time in Monash in university in foundation. And I think if anything, even though the things I learned are not really directly applicable to what I'm doing now,
Yeah.
but I do feel like the lessons I learned generally about life really helped me become more confident with being a pilot. Because I think if it weren't for these experiences I went through in Monash, in Mafi, I think I would not be here, and I don't think I would be as confident as I am today.
Today, right?
So yeah, yeah. So um, definitely an unorthodox journey,
Right.
but I don't think I would have done it any other way.
Yeah.
And plus, I think recently as well, like we've been kind of getting a few waves of like some illnesses going around, and whenever pilots hear that, we're always instantly afraid. Nowadays, it's just
Panicking,
PTSD
right?
now.
Yeah.
Exactly. So having a degree, having foundation, so having something to fall on
Yeah.
just in case worst case scenario happens is always nice. And yeah, it just feels secure, rather than going straight into it with not many
Right
qualifications.
after
And
foundation, right?
exactly. I
Yeah.
know in Malaysia and I think in the world in general, the normal route is just to go to flying school after high school.
Right.
So the second you finish high school, you just go straight away to do flying school. But I think even for any of the viewers out there who are watching who are planning to do flying school as well, um, you would be surprised to know that nowadays, Malaysia actually prefers people who have degrees.
Oh wow.
So yeah, and almost every single flying school nowadays, even mine included, um, you also do a diploma program in aviation, alongside your normal flying school.
Oh okay.
Yeah,
S-
so airlines around the world, including the ones in Malaysia, like Malaysia Airlines or Asia, are looking into cadets who have um either decent high school results
yeah.
or um like tertiary education.
Some form of
So
qualification, right?
exactly. So
Right.
so it is quite important for cadets nowadays to consider that a little bit as well.
Right.
I think people are a bit concerned when it comes to that because they say, "Oh, but I'm afraid I'm a bit too old
Yeah.
to join flying school." And my answer to them is just that your value only really starts to depreciate once you're past 35. I think once
Right.
you're past 35, only then your value as a cadet pilot depreciates. But till then, you are as good as anyone else.
Oh wow, that's interesting. I genuinely did not know that. It's not. I'm guessing it's not like an age limit where, like, oh, if you're this old, get out of our school. But
Yeah.
I've not heard of any, kind of like peak age or whatever, and we'll definitely get into that. But um, yeah, it is very interesting when you refer to a plane as just a piece of very heavy metal, a very heavy piece of metal carrying a lot of people, just 30,000 plus feet in the air. And
Yeah.
and as your friend as well, seeing you join flight school, like, I am very impressed, and I think it's safe to say that, myself and all of our friends are all very proud of you. So that's for sure. But you talked about how the pandemic was such a big impact to the aviation industry that it was your uncle, correct, in Singapore Airlines,
Correct.
that
Yeah.
essentially told you, hey, I think it's better if you just, it's like, find a backup plan first, and then you can come back and do this thing that you wanted to. um,
Yeah.
yeah, and take me through why that is. Obviously, I know the borders shutting down is probably the main influence, but why is that the pandemic was so influential on the entire aviation industry across the world?
So I think it kind of boils down to how airlines function in general. I think I may not have like the best knowledge on this, but just in general, airlines, of course, besides bringing people around the world, they rely on a lot of things as well, including like, for example, like when you go to airports and you see like those lounges, like for the platinum passengers and stuff, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they make money off that, and they make money off like tons of other stuff besides just carrying people around.
Yeah.
So the biggest threat that kind of opposed the aviation industry during the pandemic was just the fact that people just were not allowed to travel at all.
Right.
So, and if you really think about it, that's really what airports and also airplanes and airlines are for, to bring
Yeah.
people around. So when you take that out, they essentially have nothing to kind of like go for them. The only thing when it came to pandemic which helped airlines were just for example supply. Actually no, the cargo aviation industry was quite booming during pandemic. Actually, I think that's the only sector in aviation besides travel and leisure that really boomed during the pandemic. So
Oh wow.
cargo supply, because of course the world needed supplies like very
Yes.
quickly, urgently, right? So they I think I remember like I have my uncle and he had a few friends who were flying like Malaysian Airlines' cargo kind of like fleet, and they would just be going all around the world because at that point it was like a global pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So the world relied on one another to kind of help distribute supplies whenever they could. So, Malaysia Airlines sent our planes to different countries and they got the supplies from other countries, came back to Malaysia. If there was some extra supplies, they would bring it to another country. So I think the cargo industry, um, I think at that point helped or like really boomed during the
Yeah.
pandemic. But in general, yeah, just the fact that they could not bring people around and the fact that,
Right.
like you said, the borders were closed, right? Yeah, the airlines just did not have a means to function at all. So,
So really, like, the one function, like the core function, was
hmm.
not able to be carried out. And
No, exactly. Yeah,
right, so all the passenger airliners were essentially like closed down for an
100%.
indefinite period of time, right?
Yeah, exactly. I
Oh
think
wow.
back then when it first hit, we did not know when this was going to end. It could be like the
Yeah.
next year. It could be the next decade. We didn't know at all.
Yeah. It
So
could be
like,
the new norm, right? For yeah,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. So yeah, it just I think that fear just further catalyzed the whole shutting down of airlines and stuff.
yeah. But it's crazy to think though, because I'm sure these companies are very affluent, and they have a lot of money and they have a lot of resources, and because of you know the fact that they can't travel, there were these fears of like, oh my god, we might just lose our jobs forever. These big companies, these um, big airlines, like they might effectively just shut down for good, and not ever operate again.
Mm, mhm.
Yeah. Well, it's good that that didn't happen.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, 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 100%. I
yeah,
think I think like as someone who made up um his mind right before the pandemic, when I saw that happen, I was like, oh, and then I was like, okay,
yeah,
yeah, my aviation dream was kind of like fading in and out. But when we
yeah,
started to see the borders opening up and airlines functioning again, it was like, okay, yeah, cool, fine,
yeah.
fair enough.
It's like a Shakespearean tragedy. It's
Oh,
like you got
dude,
so
tell me
close
about
and it's
it.
so ironic, but
Exactly. Like, like I think you mentioned ironic. I'll tell you this story right now. I did my medicals, my class one medicals, which is your entry level medicals to join a flight school.
okay.
And I kid you not, the day after I got like the certification, my medicals, it was the first MCO. So it like ironic or like what, bro, that actually happened to me.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was insane.
Yeah. But again, I know you talked about how looking back you wouldn't do it any other way, and you got to go through uni, and you got to I'm guessing working out a balance sheet or
Hmm.
figuring out supply and demand doesn't really factor into piloting this giant piece of engineering 30,000 feet in the air. But talk to me about what did you learn in university while doing your business degree that you still carry very close to you now that you're in flight school.
Hmm. I think I think the one thing that I have carried forward towards flying school, and honestly speaking, I think until the day I die, to be honest with you, is really just like the understanding of work ethic, discipline, and also kind of being comfortable with learning things my own way.
Right.
Because I think there's this misconception about aviation, especially in the flying school part, where people say that, oh, flying school's easy, like flying school is just like basic maths. It's it's basic calculations. It's just theory, and they're not
Yeah.
wrong. Don't get me wrong. The formulas that we use, the formulas that we use, the things that we learn, are not complicated in their nature. To be honest with you, um, but the one thing that people need to realize is that there's this new added element of like kind of pressure to everything you do.
Yeah.
Because yes, I understand everything's automated nowadays. Even our flying, to be honest with you, pilots do like 20% of the flying.
Oh
And I
wow.
think once you get into aviation, like commercial aviation, it's more about managing than flying, to be honest with you. Because the
Right.
second we take off, it's on autopilot, and once we land, we then fly it ourselves.
Yeah.
So, um, but I think the things that we calculate, even though they're simple in nature, there's one thing that people don't really understand, which is that like there's pressure to it.
Yeah.
So say for example, yes, everything's automated, fair enough. But what if the computers fail?
Yeah.
What if the engines fail?
Yeah.
So for example, to just give context, if our planes are powered, like everything is powered by these two guys, or like
Yes.
four engines if the plane has it, right? So these guys provide electrical power and everything to the plane. So if this fails, we don't have electricity, pretty much.
Right.
So when that happens, your computers are down. So what else do you have to rely on? Your own brain and your
Yeah.
own instincts.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think university really taught me how to kind of like learn stuff in um very detailed ways and in my
Right.
own way as well.
Right.
because I used to be someone who like to like find the easiest way to do something or to just take shortcuts, right? But in Monash, and I think in just my experiences through foundation as well, it really taught me how to be a perfectionist, to kind of like learn even the smallest of details,
Yeah.
in whatever you do. So that translated to my flying as well.
Yeah.
Even though the formula is there, and for example, like the questions that I practice on my iPad nowadays for my exams, yeah, I can just be like, okay, yeah, so this question this says this, I'm gonna use this formula, calculate like this, and then I'll get the answer, fair enough. But to be honest with you, with flying, you can't really do that because you will never know when you might actually use that.
Right.
So you actually have to understand it and you have
Yeah.
to know the fine details of it because there are some intricacies that come into play that, I mean, you just can't think of. Like in an emergency situation, you have like 30 seconds to think. So
Yeah.
it you have to kind of develop that. And my time through university and stuff really taught me how to be detail oriented and
Right.
to look at the fine details. And I think the other things are kind of like discipline, time
Right.
management and stuff. I think that one's more towards the lifestyle of pilots. You know, for example, if I were to fly for like airlines such as AirAsia, I fly 5, 6 flights a day, which is a lot. Honestly, that takes up the whole day pretty much.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so like I think time management in general is like as a pilot when you're in the sky because again, I mean, yeah, it's all fun and games flying a plane. You know, it's a pretty big jet. Yeah, fair enough, but you need to remember it's still a business.
Yes.
It's still a business that needs to make profits.
Yep.
So time management in a sense where like when you're flying in the sky and you know that there are some delays, or for example, if you see that there's some bad weather ahead of you, that will cause delays. You need to plan out a flight plan that allows you to kind of like maybe evade that bad weather to allow you to land as soon as possible so that
Right.
the company still makes profits. Because
Right.
if you decide to pull off something funny and then you get delayed for quite some time and you lose money, it comes out from my paycheck.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not good. So time management in a flying sense like that, I think in general as a pilot, of course, the discipline, waking up early in the morning, this is when I eat, this is when I sleep. Rest is very important because I
Right.
have like 200 people behind me, and if I'm
Yeah.
sleepy, that's not good. So yeah, so yeah, like it's just the small things. I
Yeah.
think they back then I have always kind of tried to consciously think about it and practice all those things, but now as a pilot, I'm surprised with how much I use things that I used to do back in university. I think if you want to go into like subjects, my kind of like business analytics, my econs, my marketing taught me how to like see things from both perspectives and from
Yep.
like a very like kind of open stance, right? So you see things for what it is, but also kind of have an understanding that it might not be this as well. So
Right.
I mean, yeah, and is this your actually business analytics because I did coding was very important because it taught me how to troubleshoot. And
Right.
that as a pilot is very important because
Yes.
as much as we have like manuals and stuff for whenever an emergency happens, pilots have to be able to troubleshoot very fast.
You need to be able to make decisions and actually stick to them, right? Because if it's like,
Exactly.
well, do you take this route or this route, and you're like, and then you end up in the middle,
Nah,
that's chaos, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like some cases, when there's an emergency that's happening, if you don't react fast enough, it gets worse,
Exactly.
which just adds more load to the pilot. So
Yeah.
yeah, business analytics, doing coding really helped me learn my troubleshooting skills. So trying to like see what's the problem, what are the potential problems, how can I fix them, and it taught me how to think of those things and go through it in quite a decent pace.
Yeah.
So I can see that helping a lot. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. And I think, from an outsider's perspective, I don't know much, if any, about flying. I can barely swim, but like I know it. I'm sure of the fact that flying is something that is very detail oriented because you look at pictures of the cockpit, you look at and I mean if you even think about it logically, you're flying through bad weather at times, and you have situations like turbulence and all that. So everything has to be calculated to the T. And you talk about decision making as well. And my opinion on decision making is genuinely it is a skill that I believe everyone should have, because I don't think people even need to be smart. If you're good enough at decision making, you will get to like those choose your own adventure books. It's like
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're
yeah,
good
yeah,
enough at
yeah.
it, you can still get to the happy ending or like the good ending,
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
100%.
So, yeah, it's amazing that you are using those skills. And um I mean, if I'm flying and if I'm in your plane, I think I'll feel very comfortable and safe, man.
Oh man, that's one way to find out, man. That's one way to find out.
Let me know when you graduate.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, just now you talked briefly about the enrollment process because you were planning to enroll right after the Monash University Foundation year back in 2020, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, talk to me about the enrollment process for flight school. Um, how do you approach it from the start till where you make the payment, where you come in for orientation? Like talk to us about what it's like.
All right. So, yeah, I think it is a little bit more, I would say, there's definitely a much more of a thorough check, especially your background
Right.
before entering flying school, because I mean, it's just not legal to allow anyone to fly, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because, I mean, of course, with the things that have happened in the past, we have to make sure that you are a decent
Yeah.
person to like fly, because, yeah, of course. So,
It's a very
yeah,
big
I think
responsibility, right?
100%.
Yeah.
So, the first thing that you have to go through in general is through your medicals. So, like I said just now, I did my class one medicals, and that is your like entry level medicals.
Right.
So that essentially just tells people that you are fit to fly. Like you are fit to fly, you're fit to learn, and this guy is okay. Like if he passes everything, you can let him fly. And yeah, so they go through stuff like height, like weight. I think we can talk about some of the tests that they go through during that medical as well. So for me, of course, you go through your basic stuff like colorblind tests.
Yep.
So I think you I'm not sure, to quote me on this, but if I'm not mistaken, you can be colorblind, but only to a certain extent.
Right.
Yeah, so just a little bit, but yeah. So they do like for like driving tests, you have like those colorblind tests.
Yes.
It's exactly that. So just figure out the numbers that are in this pattern and all that stuff.
Right.
And the cool thing about these tests is that you can't really cheat. You can't really game them because they will
Yeah.
know. Like these doctors have gone through enough people to understand that, they
They
know
could
when you're
tell
lying
right
and stuff.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, you have things like that, like the colorblind test. I think the other thing is something that stands out to me was my hearing test.
Okay.
So
Wow.
essentially, you have to have a decent amount of hearing because, of course, you need to be able to be very aware of your surroundings while flying. So the test kind of went like this, where you would sit in this like completely soundproof dark room,
Okay.
full of like padding. Like when we go to studios and stuff, you have like those
Yes.
paddings and stuff.
Yes.
A dark room, completely padded, pitch black. They give you headphones,
Right.
and these guys would like click. Sorry, these guys would play like some audio,
Mm-hmm.
and within the audio, you would hear like a beep, like a beep, beep,
Mm.
and you have to click a button that you're holding whenever you hear that click.
Oh, okay. So in a way, it indirectly tests your reaction time as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ah,
So,
okay.
uh, just like in music, how we can pan stuff left and right as well.
Yep.
That's what happens. So some sounds come from the right headphone, some sounds come from the left headphone, and
Right.
you can kind of like so you have to be like it just teaches you or like it kind of like shows them again, like you said, reaction time. and also how well you hear from both ears, because maybe one
Spatial
ear is better
awareness
than
as
the
well,
other.
right?
Exactly.
Right.
So so they, yeah, I mean they do that. Um, and I think the one of the main questions that I get all the time, of course, are two things, which are height and also eyes. So height, you'll be happy to know, or I am super duper happy to know that the minimum height for pilots is 160 centimeters.
Right.
So I beat that mark by just like 5 centimeters. So
I
hell
don't know what you're
yeah.
talking about. I'm pretty sure you're like 8 foot tall.
Ah man, that's why I told them, Jensen, but they just want to believe it. So
You
so
should just walk and
I
carry the plane.
I know. I'm just like, yo, man, like, come on. I can't even fit, man.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so I beat so the minimum is 160.
Right.
Fun fact, the minimum height requirement for um flight attendants is actually higher than the pilots. So I think
Right.
for flight attendants, the minimum is like 165 to 170 depending on airlines.
Okay, but my question is for the flight attendants, right? Is the height requirement for a cosmetic reason or is it so they can reach the bags?
Both.
It's both,
I
right?
can I can say that it's both because
Yeah.
I think of course cosmetic reasons, but also because number two, yes, because they have to reach the bins.
Yeah.
So in emergency situations as well, of course, you need to have like the strength, you need to have the height, you need to have the reach and stuff. So yeah, the requirement is a little bit higher for flight attendants when it comes to those things.
Right.
So yeah, so when it comes to eyes, again, the viewers out there, whoever are planning to become pilots but wear like glasses, you'll be very happy to know that nowadays that's not really an issue because as long as your eyes can be fixed with lenses, so just a fancy way of saying glasses, you are fit to fly. You
Oh,
can fly.
wow.
Yeah. So back, people are right. Back in the days, there was like it was either you cannot wear glasses or there was like a much more stricter threshold when it comes to power of eyes.
Yeah.
But yeah, but nowadays, as long as your eyes can be fixed by glasses, you're fine.
Essentially, you're fine. Okay.
Yeah, but of course, when flying, the preference is to wear contacts if you can.
Right.
Yeah, because the fear is that with glasses, the biggest danger is glare. So, for example, because at night when you fly, there's tons of lights in the cockpit.
Yeah.
Maybe that might kind of like hit your lenses in a weird way, and you can't see
Yeah.
stuff.
It's like blocking
So
a
yeah,
certain part of your
exactly.
perspective. Right.
Exactly. So yeah, so that's kind of an issue. I think, but yeah, but all in all, that's really medical. Of course, they'll check your history of maybe some injuries or anything like that. Again, I cannot I cannot prefix this anymore. And for anyone out there interested in flying, if you want to be a pilot, if you want to be a flight attendant, please take care of your health because it is so important. Because if you're not healthy, you cannot fly. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So, for example, like even guys like pilots, like nowadays, we try and refrain from smoking, from vaping. We try our best, because if they detect some sort of like lung disease or anything like that, like or even in your breathing, if they detect something wrong, they will not
Right.
let you fly.
Right.
And this is, of course, for safety,
Yeah.
but another side of it is actually legal purposes. So, of course, tons of like insurance and stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, so I think that's really for like the first stage. So medicals, if you pass everything, your height, your eyes, your hearing, everything's okay. You get your class one medical, and now you can apply to flying schools. So yeah, so you apply to flying schools around Malaysia or anywhere you guys are watching this from.
Mm-hmm.
In Malaysia, we have a few. The one that I'm going to right now is the one and only one in Selangor in Klang Valley. But the well-known ones in Malaysia are in Malacca, are in Johor, and as well in Langkawi.
Right.
So yeah, of course, like whatever fits people's preferences. Want to stay close, you want to go a bit further, up to you guys. Of course, different flying schools have different perks. I would say the biggest criteria that people need to watch out for when choosing a flying school is, um, I think the number of planes that they have for training.
Oh, right.
So, so if you go to a flying school that does not have many planes to start off with, yes, ground school might go well, but once you go into flight school, or like the flying phase of flying school, you know, you have like maybe two or three batches with like maybe 10, 20 people in each batch
Yeah,
flying.
yeah,
So if you don't have many planes, there's going to be a backlog, and
yeah,
then you're going to be sat there waiting for your turn,
exactly.
and that might take some time. So, yeah, and also people need to understand that at least in Malaysia, the requirement by CAAM, just Civil Aviation Authority in Malaysia, or we call it CAM, their requirement is that you finish flying school within 2 years max.
Oh, wow.
So if you don't complete it within, oh damn, oh whoa, balloons. If you,
Congratulations! You
yeah,
made
yeah.
it!
So if you don't complete it in 2 years,
Right.
you have the recourse, which means you start from zero again.
Right, but then I'm guessing the expectation is you have to log in a certain number of hours for them to be like, okay, there's enough evidence that you are qualified and fit to fly a plane, right?
Yes, sir. So when it comes to flying school, it differs. It differs, but it doesn't differ much. I think my flying school, we graduate with 230 hours flying time,
Right.
but that is split between a single engine and a twin engine aircraft.
Okay.
So, for example, like right now, my uniform right now, there's I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's like one bar only right now.
Yes.
So one bar means that I'm a cadet pilot in ground school and can only fly single engine aircraft. So like the Cessna, so like just a single engine, right?
Right. The propeller in the
So
middle, correct?
propeller in the middle, correct.
Okay.
So that 230 hours, I think for us, it is 200 hours in a single engine and 35 hours in a twin engine.
Oh,
So a twin
wow.
engine is like the propellers are on each wing.
Right.
So when I get there, my bar will go. I'll add one more bar, so two bars. So
Yep.
I'm a twin engine pilot.
But
So yeah.
relatively speaking though, it doesn't seem like that's a lot of hours for the twin engine.
So there is a reason to this,
Okay.
and this is why people love cadet programs or like a cadet pilot program. So when I say cadet pilot programs, I'm not talking about flying school. I'm talking about like specific airline cadet pilot programs.
Right.
So throughout 2023, I applied to AirAsia and Malaysia Airlines
Mhm.
for the cadet programs. After COVID, they no longer give scholarships anymore, so you still have to pay for flying school itself. But the catch there is that they will guarantee you 7 years of work after you
Right.
graduate with the airline. So your question is a very good question actually. Why do you feel like 35 hours is not a lot on twin engine? Well, that's because you are expected to fly more, either in simulators for the airline, so like those
Right.
are proper simulators, um, for airlines, or if you have the money, you can do it in your own free time. So you can maybe like go to flying school, other flying schools, and like any flying clubs, and you lock the hours through that.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, so I think that would bleed right nicely into kind of like the future after flying school. So the pathway to becoming a commercial pilot is quite subjective. I think
Right.
if you are in a cadet pilot program, like I said just now with Malaysia Airlines, AirAsia, or any other airline,
Airlines, yeah.
you're kind of set. You know, you're set. The second you finish flying school, you are with the airline by contract. 7 years ahead of your life is guaranteed. You will fly. So, um, we'll talk about this first. Hours are logged in many ways.
Yep.
Um, some of it, of course, by default, is flying the plane itself.
Yep.
But number two is just actually sitting in the jump seat of the aircraft itself.
Oh,
So in a cockpit, you have
right.
the co-pilot, you have the captain, and then you have a few more seats. But usually the third person is just someone just watching the flight.
Right.
So that can be a flight engineer, that can be a cadet pilot like myself as well.
And those
So
hours would count towards your log as well.
exactly, those hours will count
Right.
as well. Now, the reason why it's like that, why people say like, oh, but then like, oh, but you're just watching the flight. How does it count? Well, you are in the aircraft and you are watching like pilots operate. So that kind of considers you, that is considered as flying hours as well.
Right.
So it is understandable. The reason being is because, for example, if you graduate with only 200 hours in the cockpit, it's kind of hard for them to be like, okay, yeah, you fly this plane now.
Yeah.
So it is quite difficult for them to do that because, of course, for safety reasons.
Yeah.
So yeah, so um, when it comes to that, you will log hours like that. So you just sit in a jump seat, watch the captains fly,
Right.
and yeah, so that's the second way. The third way is through simulators. So even though it's not real life,
Yeah.
but you are being tested and being invigilated by captains and like maybe other instructors. So that will go into your flying hours as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, so and I mean yeah, but I think some people might also say like, oh, but how do I kind of like train to fly these jets? Simulators are simulators, but they're not real. Well, the good news with that is that if you're in airlines like this, of course they will consider this, and you will be given a few test flights.
Right.
So these flights usually happen at night
Mm-hmm.
because traffic is low.
Yep.
So if anything were to happen, not many people will get damaged,
The
or
risk is a
not
lot
many people get
less.
hurt.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in these flights, you will like fly the plane. Like you will genuinely sit in the captain or co-pilot seat and fly the plane.
Right. For the
So
airlines
you
that you're signing with, right?
exactly. So it's a
Okay.
test flight, and there'll be instructors in the plane, in the cockpit as well, watching you do operations. So they might tell you to do some maneuvers, and they'll tell you to like do this, do that, and they'll see how you react. And this also includes takeoff and landings as well.
Okay.
So for anyone out there watching who are a bit worried about, oh, is my pilot experienced enough? It's okay. By the time they are flying that, flying is essentially their, it's just their instincts, at
Muscle
that
memory.
point. So muscle memory, exactly.
Yeah.
So they know the plane like the back of their hand.
Yeah.
So rest assured, you're safe. But that route is for people who have been given the luxury to be in a cadet pilot program with an airline.
Yeah.
For people that are not as fortunate, they go through many other ways. The most common ways are, again, either you just finance it yourself, go to simulators, get hours like that, but that costs a lot of money. Those simulators are not cheap whatsoever. They are so
Yeah.
expensive. Um, but another way that is kind of popular nowadays is working for like recreational flying. So, for example,
Right.
skydivers,
Yeah.
you need to fly the plane. So I can apply for a job that flies those planes up to the sky.
Right.
And then, yeah. Or recently, there has been a very big spike in agricultural aviation. So pilots that would fly across crops to like drop down fertilizer or like pesticide.
Pesticides, right? Mm.
Exactly, yeah. So things like that, even though they seem, a bit weird, but they do count your hours as well.
Yeah. And people don't think about those though. Because me included,
Exactly.
like when you talk about flying, I always think, oh, maybe Qatar Airways, Turkish Airlines, Malaysia Airlines. We don't think about maybe even people who do like acrobatic flying for like the Red Bull shows, where
Yeah,
someone's in the
yeah,
middle
yeah.
like and they're doing barrel rolls and all that
Yeah,
type of
yeah.
stuff. Right. So essentially, what I'm getting is to get to that end goal, there are so many different routes that people can explore. And it's not
100%.
limited to just one, this is the way, this is what you have to do to fly.
No,
Right.
definitely no.
Well, that's really interesting. That's really, really
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Well, Misa, would you talk to me about, the difference between ground school and flight school?
Yeah, so ground school is exactly what it is. It's
Mm.
just you on the ground doing theory. So that's where I am at now. I'm
Right.
just studying, waiting for my papers. Another fun fact, Malaysia's license for pilots is actually one of the most valuable and sought after license
Oh, wow.
because because we have the most thorough examinations there is, or
Wow.
what up there with the best. Because our license, to get it, we have to complete 14 papers.
14 papers.
14 papers, yeah.
Okay.
So as compared to the American license, the FAA license,
Yeah.
that requires significantly lesser examinations to get the license.
Right.
So us in Malaysia, yeah, we are pretty well equipped.
Yeah.
So yeah, ground school is that. It's just studying. It's a lot of theory.
Mm.
I think some questions that people might have, which I commonly see and hear, is people ask how it's like to study in flying school as compared to something like university or
Yeah.
college and stuff. All I can say is it is very different, because that was a question I had from my seniors as well.
Right.
Some of them came from like architectural backgrounds. They did degrees
Very
in
different.
IT, computer science, very, very different.
Yeah.
And they were like, nah, like this is very different than what they did. Because it, it's not about how difficult the subject is. It's about the amount of information you have to like digest
Yeah.
and understand. Because pilots are jack of all trades, master of
Yeah.
none. I can fly planes. I low key know how to give CPR to people.
Oh
I
wow.
know how the how a human functions, like from the brain to like everything else.
Right.
I know weather. So it's a lot. So we have to know a lot of stuff. So people might think, oh, pilots just know how to like fly planes. Now,
Yeah.
I will tell you, like, if you were to do like subjects such as aircraft general knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
which comprises of three main subchapters, which are power plant, which is the engines of the aircraft.
Right.
You have electrics, which are the electrics of the aircraft, and you have what else? You have electrics, power plant, and also what's one more? Airframe. So the build of the aircraft itself.
Right.
So um, for example, AGK, aircraft general knowledge, teaches you how to be an engineer, because you have to
Right.
know what materials work best.
Yep.
You have to know how combustion happens.
Right.
You need to know the science behind it. You need to know how circuits work, what voltage to use, what
Right.
voltage supplies to what power supply. So it's a lot. And for example, I'm doing meteorology right now, so weather.
Yeah.
I know how clouds are formed. I know what weather combination creates this weather. I know
Yeah.
what, if I go through this cloud, what happens.
Yeah.
And some people think that, oh, it's, you guys just learn basic stuff. Like, you learn in depth what
Everything. Right.
happens, everything. Of course, given you don't have to remember all of them.
Yeah.
Trust me when I tell you this. If you go up to a pilot and ask them, "Oh, so what does this cloud do?" They'd be
Yeah.
like, "Nah, I don't know."
It's
Yeah,
like
I
a
mean that
marshmallow that looks like a
yeah, yes,
dog.
yeah, that looks like my cat. So I mean, it's quite normal to forget, but
Yeah.
the ground school phase is more difficult than people might think. It is a lot, and thankfully nowadays, for again people out there who are watching who might be asking, how do I study for this? You have, of course, your textbooks.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube is going to be your best friend. But thankfully nowadays we have our question banks. So you can subscribe to like these platforms.
Right.
And for example, for me and almost every single pilot in the world right now studying,
Yep.
we use this platform called ATPL Questions or ATPLQ. And this essentially is a question bank of all of those subjects that will be asked or has been asked
In
in
the
previous
past.
years.
Right.
Yeah. So they're pretty much past year papers, pretty much.
Yeah. And you get to just keep
So
testing your knowledge.
exactly. So yeah,
Right.
so you can just practice that, just grind that. Honestly, if you don't want to read textbooks and if you just do those questions, honestly speaking, you are doing quite well.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that's ground school. Ground school takes around like 6 years to 6 years, 6 months to a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Big difference.
very big difference.
Yeah.
So 6 months to a year, so that's ground school. And
Right.
then flying school is um people might think is when the tough part starts, but if you were to ask me and if you were to ask some other pilots and captains as well,
Yeah.
They would say flying school is when the flying phase is where it starts to get a bit easier
Right.
because at that point you're only focused with certain things.
Yep.
So, of course you're calculating like maybe how much fuel I need to bring on my plane for this amount of distance, but at that point you're focused on honing your craft as a pilot to fly the plane.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, so flying school, the flying phase lasts around a year, depends on how fast and how often you fly.
Right.
Because the second you reach that 200-hour mark, I mean, a 230-hour mark, you are pretty much set to go.
To
So
graduate. Right.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So if you are someone that is diligent and love to fly, and you fly almost every single day for every single week, you are gonna get through it pretty fast. But that's not likely to happen because, of course, there are other people that want to fly.
Yes.
Your airplane might be down for maintenance, so you have to be down as well. So yeah, so give or take, flying school takes around 2 years ish. Yeah.
Oh, so the entire process really just takes normally around 3 years then.
Yeah, like I would say max 2 years and a half because like in Malaysia, like I mentioned just now, the requirement is 2 years max.
Right.
Uh, However, Chem does also acknowledge that there are some times where students just cannot avoid going past 2 years.
Yeah.
For example, if the flying school says, "Oh, sorry, but our aircraft was down for like this amount of period, so it wasn't really logical for them to fly,"
Yeah.
then they'll be like, "Okay, fine, fair enough. I'm gonna let you continue for a few more months." And
There
then
are
yeah,
exceptions. Right.
there are exceptions. Yeah, they're not too lenient with the ground school though. For example, our 14 papers that we have to do. How it works is that the second you start your first paper, you have exactly 12 months to complete all 14 papers in Malaysia.
Wow.
The second you surpass 12 months, unless you manage to negotiate your way through camp,
Right.
you are gonna do it all over
All
again.
over again, right?
Yeah, and
Oh my
each
god.
paper, each paper you have a maximum of 4 attempts. The second you go past that the fourth attempt, you have to redo that subject.
Okay.
Or no, sorry, no, you have to redo everything. Like actually like everything.
So
So
their
so so for
solution
example,
is
yeah,
all over
go
again.
around.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, for example, worst case scenario, I'm there, my 14th paper. For some reason, I can't pass it. I fail my fourth attempt.
Mm-hmm.
That's me going back off the line again and
Because
starting
you
all
thought it
over
was a
again.
marshmallow cloud.
I
Yeah.
exactly. I
Oh,
I
damn it.
knew it. I knew it. So, and also like again for viewers out there who are in Malaysia who want to watch, that is the reality of it. So please don't play a fool. It is quite
Yeah.
difficult. And also, um, there is a financial penalty to every resit. So for example, if I fail the first try, I have to do the second try, right?
Right.
So Jensen, I'm gonna shoot a question back to you. How much do you think I have to pay to resit for one paper?
Okay, taking into consideration how intensive it is and how serious they take it, um, I reckon around 2K.
Okay, so not that high, thankfully,
1K.
but lower.
Okay.
But
Uh.
the price is 600 ringgit.
Oh wow.
So for example, if I were to like for example each month take 4 subjects
Yeah.
and I fail all four, I have to go again for a second try. That's 600 times four, which is
Yeah.
2,400 bucks.
Yeah. You're paying for like a semester at uni at this point.
I no tell you about it, man. It is no joke. So
Wow.
yeah, hell yeah.
But I do, going after hearing what you said about ground school, I think they really have this great emphasis on equipping you guys um, to be efficient in practicing really everything, right? Like how to give CPR, even you mentioned that. What if there is an emergency on a flight? So they have this great, I'm thinking that they have this great emphasis on practicality. And wow, that's insane though to think about it because you mentioned how ground school really, it wouldn't really go past a year, right?
Yeah, ground school. Ground school, I think you should be able to get it done by a year, definitely.
Yeah, and to do 14 different papers in 1 year. And I thought my life was over when I was doing my A levels. That's insane.
No.
That's insane. Oh wow.
Oh man, it's wild.
Yeah, I mean it really I mean, I've always respected pilots. I think most people will always respect pilots. We're not exactly like, oh, look at these good for nothing people. But now that I know like you guys are doing 14 papers within 1 year, and that's only the first half, it really instills a newfound respect for you and your friends at flight school. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have this misconception that again, flying is easy. Pilots, it's a pay to win situation where like you just
Yeah.
pay an X amount of money and you get a license and you're set for life. Trust me when I tell you this, it is. I thought the same as well. I'm not gonna lie. I
Mm.
seriously thought that, oh, like if you have the money, why not? But to be honest with you, if you do not have the passion for flying, I I would really suggest you not go through with flying school
Right.
because this tests your mentality and yourself in general in so many ways that I couldn't have imagined.
Right. How much do you actually want it?
Exactly. And
Right.
even our captains made it a point at the start during orientation, right? They were like, guys, like if you guys don't like it, I would suggest you to rethink this career path because if you
Right.
don't like it, because you need to understand that you're this is not a career that you are responsible for your own self.
Yeah.
You're responsible for like 200 people.
Yeah.
And and think about it this way. Some people might think, oh, 200 people, nah, it's fine. But think about it this way. 200 people are just people on board.
Yeah.
You've not thought about their families yet.
Exactly.
So as much as you are carrying 200 souls on board, you're actually being responsible for at least times two because
Yeah.
of their parents, their sons, their daughters. So
Yeah.
you really don't mess about when you're in the cockpit. Like
Yeah.
you are responsible for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
I think after MH370, MH17 in Malaysia,
Yeah.
those two incidents and seeing the fallout that has happened to their families as well, it is no joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is a big responsibility, and yeah, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
like everyone has family, and everyone has an expect. I mean, it's fundamental, right? That you should expect safety when you put your lives in the hands of, pilots, right? Because you paid for the service, you expect to get from point A and point to point B in a very safe and comfortable manner. So yeah, there is a lot of responsibility, and again, going back to the 14 papers and hearing about your process through ground school, then flight school, it really does justify why they take it so serious. And
Yeah,
it it is reassuring knowing that this is something that they're very intensive about, and this is something that hey, you have to pass and you have to make sure you do well, and only when you do well can we let you, fly a plane.
100%. It's also like I said as well, it's actually for legal reasons as well, so
Yeah.
insurance wise. So like if anything were to happen, families will be able to like um, you know, file a lawsuit or something like that.
Yeah.
And for airlines, if any lawsuits were to be thrown at them, they can just say like, oh, but my pilots were licensed. They were like
Right.
people who qualified for this. So instead of like people who just like cheat their way through, the airlines will always lose because they're like, oh, but how could you let this
Yeah.
pilot fly?
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think like this is also another thing that people have always been asking, and it's about is AI gonna ever replace human pilots?
Human pilots. Right.
And my answer to that is very simple. Yes, but not for a very long time.
Right.
And it boils down to the same point I keep on saying. It's just legal reasons.
Yeah.
Because at least in today's day and age, we still have yet to find a way to like file a lawsuit against a robot, an AI.
Right.
So yeah, but till then, when that happens, then yeah, pilots might be gone, human pilots might be gone.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think anyone who flies, rest assured that at least 98% your pilots are like well trained, well fed,
Yeah.
well rested. So yeah.
That's really good to know. But what I find, you raised a very interesting point: AI versus human, right? And I think I don't know jack about AI. Um, that's why I'm doing a business and arts degree. But there is always a conversation about, oh, is AI going to take our jobs? Is automation going to take our jobs? Do you think do you think that AI technology would eventually have the capability for decision making so well that they can completely replace human pilots?
Mm, that's a very good question. I think for me as well, my knowledge on how far AI can go is limited as well. Um, but I do feel like for me, I just feel like it's a lot of work that needs to be done for it to get to that point.
Right.
Because if you were to ask me, you know, and I think you can ask this question to every single pilot out there. They have watched a lot of air crash investigation videos, man. I swear,
Right.
Jensen. I lived and breathed watching like this like crash investigation like
Right.
documentaries and stuff.
Right.
It's wild, it's funny. But yeah, I think out of all the crashes that like almost every single case that I've seen, there's always that human element to it. There's
Yep.
always that split second decision. And the reason why I feel like AI will, but not in a long time, is because um AI is kind of built on like, okay, if this is this, if this equals this, it's that. If it's not
Yeah.
that, it equals this.
Yeah.
But humans don't work like that. For example, um, I don't know if you know about this case, but the miracle on the Hudson River, for example.
Yes.
So the plane that landed in the Hudson River
Yep.
in New York in US, right? So um, Captain Sully, he went against almost every single kind of like natural pilot instinct there was.
Oh
And
wow.
he trusted his own instinct because there is actually no such thing as a water landing. It's like
Right.
because when a plane hits the water, it's
Splatters,
done.
right?
Like the plane breaks. Like the
Yeah.
plane will definitely break. So put an AI there. It just the it would just tell itself, okay, no, water is no. I'm gonna head back to the airport.
Right.
But the point is that like yes, I think even in that case, um, there was this scene in the movie, the reenactment of it as well. I'm not sure how this scene was really true, but in that scene of the movie,
Right.
um, they were saying that like, oh, you, captain, and the co-pilot were at fault because from our simulations, you could have made it to another airport without crashing.
Right.
But the Captain Sully then kind of like spoke against it, saying that, okay, but let me paint this picture for you. Those people in those simulations already knew that birds were going to hit the engine, that they were going to lose engines at that very low altitude.
Oh
So they knew what was
right.
going to happen. So they knew what to do. They knew what to do. They knew what to press. They knew what to like change. They knew what to do. Everything.
Yep. It's been laid out for you, so you know
It's been laid out
exactly
for
what the
them.
scenario is.
Exactly. So Captain Sully was like, okay, but okay, you know the recordings because every plane has their own black box recorder, so it
Yep.
records data and everything like that. So they're like, fine, you know how fast I reacted to that situation at that time to like the pilots doing the simulation,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like a 20-30 second buffer because they were going through checklists and stuff before they actually acted with maneuvering the aircraft, right?
Right.
Accordingly. So they just let the pilots in the simulator go through that 20-30 second buffer, and none of them made it to any airport.
I feel like
So
I've seen this in the
yeah,
movie.
exactly. I think you have.
Okay.
So 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 yeah so so yeah so essentially that's why I kind of say like AI can't make, at least for now, they cannot make decisions like that.
Yeah.
They're logic based.
Yeah.
Everything is based on information. But what Captain Sully did that day was the pure example of like human instincts.
Exactly.
As a
And I
human being, I'm like, I'm not sure this might succeed, but I'm gonna just do it because that's the safest thing.
yeah. And I think
So, yeah.
adding to your point, I just don't think AI, to my knowledge, to my very basic, non-existent, essentially knowledge, I just don't think AI has that capability to be like, okay, logically this doesn't make sense, but it feels like it's the right thing to do. And of course, this is not just like, oh, I'm a Gemini, I look at the stars, this is the right thing
Yeah,
to do.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
like for Captain Sully, it's based on his expertise. Like, oh, my gut
Yeah.
feeling, um, joined with my expertise and my experience tells me, hey, this is the safest thing to do, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
100%. So like, yeah, it's just tough. I think it is. Don't get me wrong. I think machine learning will get to that point, but
mm,
it's I don't know. I feel like how much effort is needed to save like salaries for pilots. I just feel like it's so much of a hassle to like
yeah,
get it to that because you
yeah,
essentially have to have AI, which is like humanoid level of like thinking
yeah,
at that point, which
yeah,
is insane.
yeah. But Tom Hanks, man, what a phenomenal pilot.
What a lad, man. That
Wow.
guy, that Tom Hanks.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Um, but yeah, you mentioned meteorology at the very start of our interview. And I was doing research for this podcast because, again, I do not know anything about flying. I just know there was one time I snuck into business class and there was no one in the flight because we stopped for a technical layover
Yeah.
and then everyone got off. And then it was just me, my brother, and my dad. So me and my brother snuck into business class and we just like,
Huh.
we put our books, we put our bags there. He was napping, I was like journaling and all that. And then I made friends with the flight attendant. So he genuinely thought I was a business class passenger. But yeah, that's all I know. How to get promoted. In the right things.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
talk to me about, meteorology and I did research and apparently it is one of the most difficult modules.
Oh wow, Jensen, yeah, you definitely did your research, man. Holy crap. Meteorology is one of the most so that's the thing. It kind of goes back to like my point just now I made. It's not difficult, but it's just so much
Right.
of thinking because honestly speaking, if I had no pressure of like studying for exams, and if I
Mhm.
sat down and had all the time in the world to sit down and learn meteorology, it'd be straightforward. But the fact that it's so much to digest in the given time, it is just so difficult, to be honest with you.
Right.
So I think what you said is true. Your fact is right in saying that meteorology is up there with one of the most toughest subjects there is.
Right.
I think it rivals subjects like general navigation, which is what I'm doing now as well, which
Yep.
is like literally figuring out how to like navigate and find like
Oh,
coordinates and
right.
stuff. So yeah, so it's and also principles of
Principles of
flight.
flight. Yeah.
Oh, dude. Oh,
Oh.
wow. He's a pilot, man. He's
AirAsia,
a
where you
pilot.
at? Where you at?
Alright, right. Where you were. Yeah, principles of flight. There we go. So principles of flight is one of the most difficult ones as well because
Right.
uh it sounds easy. And don't get me wrong, the formulas are quite easy as well. It's just physics pretty much.
Right.
Learning about what forces act on an aircraft, how much lift I need
Yeah.
in these conditions, at this altitude, at this speed. So it's things like that.
Right.
So even though the formulas are easy, but to apply it in like a flying context, it is quite difficult.
Yeah.
I learned a bit about thermodynamics. I learned about, of course, aerodynamics. I learned about
Wow.
drag, thrust. So
So it's really
it
physics
is
based.
physics based, yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, but meteorology is difficult because there's just so many variables to it. It's again, I'm thankful that I did economics in
Yeah.
Mafi as well as university,
Right.
because one trait that econs has, which is so easily kind of like applied to meteorology, is how in econs, if you remember, how everything is linked to one another.
Yeah.
So if this variable causes this, this it causes this, and it causes that.
Right.
So it's like a chain of events. So in meteorology, it's the same thing. Essentially, if you get these conditions, if you get this temperature, if you get this altitude, at this pressure, you will get this. So
Right.
the tough thing about meteorology is that if you don't get it, you don't even know what leads to what.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of like definitions, a lot of like understanding how clouds work. I think it's mostly about clouds and winds.
Right.
So yeah, yeah. So it's things like that. It even boils down to like the seasons that we face on Earth,
Oh
like
wow.
autumn, winter. Yeah. So like knowing where the Earth is in relation to the sun, of
To
course,
the sun. Yeah.
that dictates the season in the northern and southern hemisphere and stuff. So yeah, the all I can say is that after doing meteorology for like a few months, man, the clouds are insane, man. Like whoa, a new
But
appreciation to clouds, man.
yeah. But I'm guessing one way to look at it as well is, you know, I don't know if you did A levels or IGCSEs, but we always had those questions where it's like five A B C D E, and if you don't
Mm-mm.
know A, then you can't get five C,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yes,
It's like a
yes.
chain basically,
Correct.
right?
Yeah,
So basically, if you miss one step, you can't you can't get to the conclusion,
100%. Yeah,
right?
that's the biggest issue with people is that even for me as well, like I can't it's tough for me to kind of like answer meteorology questions nowadays because I still am just really weak in it because I still
Right,
can't like visualize the things. But
right,
yeah, but it's exactly that. That you are really right. If you don't know a thing, then you will never understand why this happens.
right.
And then yeah, so yeah,
And is it because there's so many factors as well? It could be just cloudy, it could be rainy, and then you talk about temperature, and then you even have to calculate or factor in altitude, right?
100%. So like I think it's difficult because of physics in general as well,
Yeah.
because you know how like atoms and molecules react differently at different temperatures at different pressures.
Yeah.
So understanding and remembering what types of clouds there are in it by itself is difficult.
Oh wow.
Factor in like what different temperatures or altitudes can do to that cloud and what it can do to your plane. So
Right.
essentially, you have to study A B C, but then
Right.
you also have to learn like A1, A2, A3. So like
Yeah.
it is a lot. It's a lot of work, definitely.
It's very exponential in a way, right? It's like
One hundred
for
percent.
each thing there's another however many things that you have to take in.
Yeah, like it is just wow. It
Right.
is a lot. Yeah.
For me it's big cloud, small cloud. Oh my
Hey,
god, we're going through the cloud.
it's seen for me right now, man. It's cloud. Oh man.
Yo, get me on your plane, bro.
Dude, I'm gonna fly you around, bro. If you like
Yes, sir.
my propeller plane, I'm like, yo, since I want to fly through that one, it's like, yeah, let's go. Watch us like get on
uh,
news and stuff. Oh man.
that's yeah, who's my I want to take care of my life basically. That's you, bro.
Ah man, here you go. Hey, but if I do remember correctly, you wanted to be a pilot as well, no, Jensen?
I genuinely I entertained the idea because
Mm.
but my approach to it was not I genuinely love aviation. It was more I thought it made me look very cool. But
Mm.
but to add more detail to that though, I knew I didn't want to work in an office because I think of myself as, you know, I'm someone who loves variation. I love a changing environment. I love that kind of the chance to adapt. So my very uneducated perception of flying was, oh, you get to go here, you get to go there, and of course I'm, you know, under no um, illusion that it's just that. But I also knew there is a bit of a fear and a bit of a challenge and a lot of responsibility, and I knew that that's what I craved. So I did entertain the idea. My brother is, I think he's entertaining the idea a lot more than I am because he's thinking of doing it after uni as well. So something like, a path similar to yours essentially. Do uni, get his degree, and then if the opportunity is there, like maybe go to flight school. And hearing how you talk about people with glasses, they don't have to worry, is very
Yeah.
reassuring because yeah,
Hell
he's been
yeah.
wearing glasses since he was like 5 months old.
Oh damn.
So
Oh damn.
yeah. So in the
That's
olden days,
awkward.
he would have been destined to fail at flying a plane, but now it's very good news.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh man,
Yeah.
like back in the days, I think the second he showed his face in that clinic, it's done. He's like, nah, just go back.
Yeah. Um. Well, yeah. I mean, I think we covered a lot of it. I think we covered, what flight school is like, and then the responsibilities of a pilot, the different modules, some of the modules that you guys have to pick up, and what you get tested on. Um, you know, I think we were talking about things that are quite serious for the whole time. So I want to lighten the mood, and I want to ask, what is your favorite plane?
Oh, okay, okay. Um, let let's start with okay, favorite plane. Okay, let's see.
Could be paper
Um,
airplanes, could be fighter jets, anything and
paper.
everything.
Um, okay. I think like uh favorite. Okay, let's say jet, fighter jet. I think my favorite fighter jet is probably a F-35. I think the fifth gen. I think it's a fifth generation fighter jet that the US uses.
Right.
That looks sleek. It's fast. Oh man, it is insane. I think for I think commercial.
Yep.
My preferred manufacturer is Airbus.
Right.
Um, and I think
That's
it
the only
would
one I know,
be.
to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's
All
the
right.
only one.
So Airbus. I think my favorite airplane right now is uh the Airbus A350. It's
Okay.
the most latest medium to long haul jet that they use. Malaysia Airlines
Right.
has I think around seven of them.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, I like it a lot. I think the second aircraft that I would like is this. So this is
Right.
a Emirates. This is a Boeing 777-300
Oh,
ER.
Boeing. Okay.
Yeah, sir. The 777-300 is an old aircraft.
Right.
This used to be every single airline's kind of like go-to aircraft because this can go medium to long haul as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Uh, This one, the Emirates have the ER variant, which stands for extended range.
Right.
This can go really far. So this is one of Emirates. I think this is what makes up most of their fleet, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
So yeah.
wow. And how many hours is considered a really long haul flight?
Oh,
Let's do a
really
minimum.
long haul. Okay, I would say to consider a long haul, I would say it needs to go more than
18
I
hours?
think I I think like okay. I think like short haul would be like 30 to like 2 hours, I would say, short haul.
Yep.
Okay, fine. Let's say a short haul aircraft nowadays is like a Boeing 737. So that can go up to like, I think 4 6 hours, I think around there.
Oh, four to
So
six.
that's like a
Okay.
short to medium haul.
Yep.
And I think seven up to maybe like 13, 14 is medium haul.
Right.
And then upwards of that is long haul, which is like, I think like 15 up. Uh, the longest flight in the world is a flight that goes from Singapore to JFK, so John F. Kennedy Airport in New York,
Mm-hmm.
non-stop, one like full on non-stop from Singapore up till there. Or it's either that or it's a flight from Australia to US as well, non-stop, and
Oh
that's
my
like
god.
18. 18, 21 hours of flight, I think around there, depending on the route. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, so yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
That's almost a day of
Yeah,
like in a plane.
the jet lag must be crazy.
Oh, dude, tell me about it. Tell me about it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Another question. Would you rather be sat next to a touchy touchy couple or
Mm.
next to a crying baby on that 21-hour flight?
Oh man,
This is your
touchy
15th
touchy.
this is your 15th paper.
Oh, dude. Oh man, this is the toughest one. If
Yeah.
I fail, what's the penalty if I fail?
No retries.
Oh, damn.
You're done,
Damn it.
bro. And
Damn.
your Monash degree becomes null.
Damn.
You have to restart from foundation.
Hey, I can't fail if I don't do it.
I'll miss
Oh
my
man.
flight.
Okay, wait. What? Okay, first of all, what's your definition of touchy touchy?
They like a good makeout session every couple, every 30 minutes, and you can hear it. Sounds like two pieces of raw chicken slapping against each other.
I'm sat next to a crying baby, man.
Let's
There's no way
go.
I'm sitting through that shit. I think like it's a battle of either being annoyed or like being uncomfortable. I'd rather be annoyed than uncomfortable,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
That's weird, dude.
yeah. I feel
Uh,
like that's when you start, fearing for your safety a little bit,
yeah.
you know?
They just like spill over to my seat. I'm like, nah.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing.
So how
Well,
about you, Jensen?
I think this is where we need to think outside the box,
Okay.
and I'd go for both.
Whoa, both
Yeah,
like it's like left crying baby, right raunchy couple.
yeah.
Yeah, that's wild, Jensen. You want to explain or not?
um, that's the new Mile High Club.
Damn, damn,
Yes, sir. Yes,
damn.
sir.
No, no. See, so in those scenarios, I'll be like, yeah, that baby is crying because of you, Jensen.
Yeah, because
That's
of disappointment,
exactly. It's like, damn, man. I'm like,
you know.
God.
And then after it stops crying, he stands up. Yo, brother, I'm so disappointed in your decisions. And then
Exactly,
and then
yeah.
it hits me, you know. Yeah, what am
Dude,
I
like
doing?
like when a kid, like we as kids, like we would, we would not know much about the world up till like we're four,
Yeah.
and then suddenly one day we wake up like some
Boom.
flip, and then we just like get consciousness, and then we
Yep.
just like, whoa, yeah,
That
the
was
baby's
that
just like,
moment.
the baby's like, nah, what's up, bro?
You traumatized me.
Exactly.
Well, there you go. That's why I'm not in flight school. Um, but speaking of we're not speaking of anything. We're talking about crying babies and couples making
Hell
out.
yeah.
But back into reality. Well, one thing that I've always heard is black box, and I do have a very vague, but I do have a very vague understanding of it. But can you take us through more detail of what a black box is and what does it do?
Okay, so black box. Ironically enough, it's actually not black. It is actually orange, very bright orange actually. So
Time to
the
sue.
opposite of black. It is insanely bright orange, and it's of
Right.
course because if worst case scenario happens, it wants to be as visible as possible.
Yeah.
So a black box contains two devices actually.
Right.
It's not just one. It contains two recording devices. One is called the FDR, which is the flight data recorder,
Right.
and then it carries the CVR, which is the cockpit voice recorder.
Oh wow. Okay.
So in that black box, you have two recorders.
Right.
So the name is, I mean, self-explanatory. The flight data recorder solely records flight data. So for example, how high the plane is flying, how fast the plane is flying, even to a point of like even monitoring systems as well. So if there's a
Right.
system fault, it will record it. If an engine
Right.
fails, it will record it. Even like inputs that pilots make to the joystick as well, it will be recorded as well.
Every every little detail.
Exactly. So
Right.
if anyone out there is thinking that they can get away with like pulling off like a Maverick or like Top Gun maneuver, you will get caught. Like trust me,
Yeah.
you will get caught one way or another. So it records everything. The cockpit voice recorder records nothing but your voice. So the conversation happening in the cockpit and stuff.
Right.
Some people might be like, oh, but like, um, you know, but what does that help with? Well, the cockpit voice recorder is quite important, equally as important as the flight data recorder, because you'll be very surprised with um how important it is to know what I say to my other pilot in the cockpit.
Yes.
So an example I can give you guys at how useful a CVR can be, a cockpit voice recorder, is this one incident. I think a few years back, it was a Korean Airlines cargo aircraft,
Okay.
and it was flying out. I think from US, I think,
Right.
and they were behind schedule. They were super duper delayed. So the captain wanted to make sure that we fly out here as soon as we can.
Yep.
And yeah, so they were like, okay, punch it. Started to go
Let's
down the
take off.
runway, took off.
Yep.
Yep. It was at night. It was at night, so everything was dark. And people would be very surprised how dark it is up there in the sky at night.
Right.
Like it is pitch black
Oh wow.
to a point that if you do not pay attention to your instruments, you will lose orientation of where you are.
Wow.
Like you will lose your spatial awareness. That's why it's so important to know what your instruments show and to trust your instruments as well.
Right.
So so what happened was that in this flight, because they were so delayed, the captain was kind of trying to chase this time. He was trying to make up for the time. So
Yeah.
went down the runway fast, took off fast, and he didn't even engage autopilot. He just wanted to fly the plane himself for quite some time because he wanted to like cut corners and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So what happened was that the plane crashed. The plane crashed not so far after the runway. It like completely hit the ground. And people were asking like what happened and stuff. Well,
Right.
if it weren't for the cockpit voice recorder, we would have never known that in the cockpit what happened was the instruments on the captain side was faulty. It wasn't showing the right indications.
Oh god.
But the instrument on the co-pilot side was showing the right indications.
Right.
So what happened was, due to Asian culture,
Yeah.
and because younger people or people who are lower in like kind of like the hierarchy of like, for example, a company or something,
The captain
they
refused to
do
listen.
they not even refuse to listen. The co-pilot refused to speak. So even in front of his eyes, he saw that the plane was going at like this super duper extreme bank angle. He felt like no, like I am less superior than my captain, so I shouldn't
That.
speak up to him.
Wow.
So imagine like like the artificial horizon that planes have, like the one that has the blue
Yes.
and brown thing. So on like the captain side, it was kind of flat, but on the co-pilot side, it showed like a very severe bank angle.
Already tilting. Yeah.
Yeah, so the co-pilot sat there just it was just quiet, and he only spoke up when it was too late because the plane after a certain bank angle, it's like it will essentially like be like that, and it will
Yeah.
just fall off
Yes.
just fall off the sky. So yeah, pretty much that happened. So that's why the CVR is quite important because it will tell you
Right.
what the pilots were talking about in the flight.
And their
And
thoughts, intentions, everything.
exactly. Even like some cases, like for example, this Malaysia Airlines flight that was flying from I think Adelaide or Sydney to Kuala Lumpur. Um, that incident, thankfully everyone survived. They made
Yeah.
a successful emergency landing back in Australia. Uh, but it showed how well the captain and co-pilot kind of like assigned roles to one another, played to each other's
Right.
strengths. And the CVR shows that. The CVR shows good communication. So that's why pilots, if you're someone who doesn't like to talk, it's quite difficult to be a pilot because you need to
Yeah.
be able to verbalize whatever you feel.
You have to be
Yeah,
articulate and precise, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the black box. And I think in terms of mechanics, I think everyone has a decent idea, especially after the Emmer Myzan zero crash.
Yeah.
We were talking about black box every single day.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so that thing is orange. That thing is damn near close to indestructible. It's built super duper well because
Right.
it's meant to sustain like impact and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And also when it gets submerged in water, it will give out a beacon
Oh
and
wow.
it will give out a beacon, but only for 30 days.
Right.
So
Okay.
after 30 days, the signal dies.
Right.
So that was why people during the MS3 M0 case, there was like a countdown timer every single day that showed how much time the black box had left before it died.
Right. And once it dies,
Yes,
essentially it's gone. It's missing.
it's gone. It's gone.
Right.
Yeah, you cannot detect it unless, of course, other ways. But yeah, yeah.
Right.
So that essentially is what a black box is. It is, yeah, it's a recording device.
Right. So it records the obviously the conversation the pilots are having, and it
Mm-hmm.
also records the flight, flight data.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Correct.
Wonderful. Well, Mizan, thank you so much for your time, man. Before you go, I do want to ask you, what is your dream airline to fly with? I see that you have an Emirates plane there, but what
Yeah.
what is your dream airline to fly with?
My dream airline, best case scenario, is Singapore Airlines.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
100 likes
Yeah.
and we make it happen. No, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So like Singapore Airlines, I earn in Sing dollars, I spend in MYR, I'm close to
Yeah,
home, I fly all around the world.
right.
It's a win-win, man. It's a win-win.
And I'm guessing they have a very good system as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think Singapore Airlines is a bit more of a traditional airlines when it comes to
Okay.
like rankings. But yeah, but it's good. My uncle's there. He's I mean he is quite happy. So yeah.
Mm-mm. That's amazing, man. And I have no doubt in my mind that, it will happen. So that's
Hey, thank you
amazing.
so much, brother.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Yeah, I'll make sure, once I get the news, I'll make sure I only fly Singapore Airlines. And one
Yeah.
day, this is your captain, Emir Myzan speaking. That's gonna happen. Believe.
Oh man, no man, no man, dude. If you see that happening, man, just kick the door down and yeah,
Yeah,
we might arrest you, but
yeah,
hey, it's Jensen.
yeah. I'll get
Uh,
that 1 second.
yeah, yeah,
Yo, I
yeah.
know I know that guy. Yeah,
Nah, just rest to the ground.
yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And then to add on to that question, what is your ultimate goal with flying, and at what moment will you decide, hey, I think I made it?
I think for me, my end goal is to be a long haul captain, flying on routes that are like, long distance. My goal is to see as much of the world as I can.
Yeah,
Of course, learn as much as I can throughout my experiences, be it in flight school or just during the time I'm traveling around the world.
yeah,
See different people, see different cultures, learn about them. Um, when I know I have made it, I feel like once I am able to not only be happy with myself being a
yeah,
pilot, achieving what I want, but also being able to give back to the people that mean the most to me back at
right,
home, my family. If I'm able to sustain a good life for them,
right.
and even not only family but friends as well. Like if I can sustain all of them and keep them happy while also being able to achieve my goals, I think that's when, as a pilot, I'm like, yeah, I mean, this is it.
Yeah. I mean, what more can you want, right? That is profoundly, um, well, not satisfying, but profoundly. It's the point where you realize, oh, you know what? I think I have everything I want. I could ever want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%, 100%.
So lots of Australians flying to New York. Get ready for your
Yeah.
new captain.
Oh, dude, I can't wait. I can't wait to see you on my flight, Jensen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Jensen Chua? Oh man. Dude, Jensen, I swear to God, if I see your name there, I'm gonna do walao over the intercom, man. Wow, hey,
We'll clap
dude.
when we land. We'll clap when we land.
Oh man, that'd be so cool. Like, I just see one person clapping. It's like Jensen.
Yeah, that's him.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Mizan, is there anything you want to add? Anything you want to comment?
I mean, I think not much. I just like to say like anyone out there who wants to try flying, despite of course us discussing the bad and good, I hope that you still go with your gut, and no matter how old or how young you are or what experiences that you have had in life so far, that all doesn't matter. To be honest with you, when you enter flying school, everyone starts from zero.
Yeah,
I think no one has a benefit over the other because it's something completely new. So yeah, so I think even if you don't want to go into commercial, if you just want to go into like private licenses, yeah, for real, like there's no problem at all. Flying can be your spare time, your hobby. That's completely fine. And yeah, I think yeah, anyone out there aspiring to be a pilot, go chase your dreams. And as long as you want it to happen, trust me, it will happen. And yeah, and of course, thank you so much, Jensen, for having me on board today, man. It's been
thank
great.
you, thank you, Mizan. That's beautifully put, and I'm sure there's a very great sense of camaraderie, at flight school, and everyone has the same goal, and you guys are just helping push each other and lift each other up. So, Mizan, thank you so much for your time.
My
Guys, I
pleasure.
will I will drop Mizan's socials in the description. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to hit him up. He's very very friendly, and always someone that is a lot of fun to have a conversation with. So thank you so much. And yeah, if you guys are interested in more of the podcast, please like, subscribe, all that stuff. Share this video with your friends. And thank you for tuning in to the Pineapple Party podcast with myself and the very handsome and very insightful Mizan. So thank you guys.
Thank you guys. See ya.